what you're doing right now, at this very moment, is killing you. More than cars or the internet, or even that little mobile device we keep talking about, the technology you're using the most almost every day is this, your tush. Nowadays, people are sitting 9.3 hours a day, which is more than we're sleeping at 7.7 hours. Sitting is so incredibly prevalent, we don't even question how much we're doing it. And because everyone else is doing it, it doesn't even occur to us that it's not okay. In that way, sitting has become the smoking of our generation. And of course, there's health consequences to this, scary ones, besides the waste. Things like breast cancer and colon cancer are directly tied to our lack of physical inactivity. 10%, in fact, on both of those. 6% for heart disease, 7% for type 2 diabetes, which is what my father died of. Now, any of those stats should convince each of us to get off our duff more, but if you're anything like me, it won't. What did get me moving was a social interaction. Someone invited me to a meeting, but couldn't manage to fit me into a regular sort of conference room meeting and said, I have to walk my dogs tomorrow. Could you come then? Seemed kind of odd to do. And actually, that first meeting, I remember thinking, I have to be the one to ask the next question because I knew I was going to huff and puff during this conversation. And yet, I've taken that idea and made it my own. So instead of going to coffee meetings or fluorescent-lit conference room meetings, I asked people to go on a walking meeting to the tune of 20 to 30 miles a week. It's changed my life. But before that, what actually happened was I used to think about it as you could take care of your health or you could take care of obligations. And one always came at the cost of the other. So now, several hundred of these walking meetings later, I've learned a few things. First, there's this amazing thing about actually getting out of the box that leads to out-of-the-box thinking. Whether it's nature or the exercise itself, it certainly works. And second, and probably the more reflective one, is just about how much each of us can hold problems in opposition when they're really not that way. And if we're going to solve problems and look at the world really differently, whether it's in governance or business or environmental issues, job creation, maybe we can think about how to reframe those problems as having both things be true. Because it was when that happened with this walk and talk idea that things became doable and sustainable and viable. So I started this talk talking about the tush, so I'll end with the bottom line, which is walk and talk. Walk the talk. You'll be surprised at how fresh air drives fresh thinking, and in the way that you do, you'll bring into your life an entirely new set of ideas. Thank you.
What would happen if we took the chairs out of the room? What are the differences between standing meetings compared to more traditional conference table kinds of meetings? So we studied groups coming up with a recruitment. They had to develop a recruitment video for the university. So that was their task, is to come up with a creative idea and then actually to execute. So we recorded these videos at the end. They acted them out, and then we had a completely different set of coders rate the quality and the creativity of those final videos. So folks worked together for a half hour, and we video recorded those meetings, and then had 3 research assistants come in and systematically rate the interaction patterns in the meetings. So surveys, then video codings, and then the third measurement approach that we used was a wearable sensor that we had people wear. So this is what it looked like. And we had everyone in the groups wear one of these sensors, which tracks aspects of their physiology. So it's going to measure how much they're moving physically. It has an accelerometer, so it can get motion. But it's also measuring activation of the sympathetic nervous system, which is
how much you sweat.
Yeah, like how on your body is. How on your body is. It's fight or flight response. And so when folks are more engaged in their work, generally you see that activation level rising.
The idea that people who stand up are more physiologically aroused is pretty obvious. And that was kind of like the initial path that we knew will occur.
Right.
The other one that was a little bit more tricky to uncover was how people feel about each other. So what happens is if you remove the chairs, right, as I said before, people start using, they're not using individual workspaces, but they're using common spaces. If you sit on a table in a chair, you might be more likely to feel that this is yours. The ideas that come out. Here it's kind of, they're documented in a collective space. And the idea is that maybe this common space here is no one, or there's not an individual really assigned to owning this.
I was really excited to see that that was the case, that our third-party coders who had no idea what it was that we were predicting noticed these differences where folks who were in a standing meeting were less protective over their own contributions, and they were more likely to build upon one another.
It's not as simple as to say that removing chairs will make people more likely to be creative, right? It ends up that they actually have to move around, they have to feel differently, and have to engage in this process.
Right.
So we can say that removing the chairs changes the way people interact and feel about that,
Right.
and ultimately this will have benefits.
Yeah, there was about a 13-year history where I hated meetings. They're long, they're boring, and I felt like they didn't accomplish much. We've been doing stand-up since March, consistently, every single day. The reason we stand up at meetings is to keep people from being verbose, talking too much. If you have to stand there, your feet start hurting, you become very precise with what you're saying. It's based on the Scrum Agile model. So that's a software development model, and it's also based on a book by Patrick Lencioni called Death by Meeting. You have to do stand-up meetings where there are no chairs. And so we set up what we call an information radiator, which is where we display the information about the queues or a current project, and that's our gathering point. And you'll notice there's nowhere to sit. And that's on purpose, because if there's the opportunity to sit, people will sit.
Currently we have our stand-up meetings in front of the touchscreen TV that's right here in the hallway, so we all circle around it. It's kind of a good focal point for us because we're able to see our current task list that are in a queue and to discuss some of the tasks that are open and need attention.
Daily stand-up meetings, every person answers 3 questions, including the team leader. What did I do yesterday? What am I doing today? And what obstacles do I have? So that gives the leader the insight of what's happening, what they accomplished, what they're going to try and accomplish, and allows either the leader or the other team members to clear any obstacles that might prevent them from getting the work done.
With short daily meetings, you're able to stay focused and you have everybody's undivided attention because when we're going one at a time around the circle, we're all listening to each other, and sometimes we have feedback for other people of what they're doing and maybe what they're stuck on.
So we have different queues of the different teams work on, and those queues now rapidly get done, where things used to sit for months at a time, now they're sitting for weeks at a time or days at a time. So the work is getting done faster. It comes down to the customer. We're getting the issue solved faster, new development done faster, and at a higher quality and consistently.